This is a story about Porsche, a dazzling and dark tale. Porsche is known for its elegant and sexy body. Throughout its history, the brand has experienced success, tragedy, innovation and destruction. This brand has a mysterious history. So, how did this brand come to be? To understand it, we must look back to the year 1898. Ferdinand Porsche had a keen interest in the automotive world, so he quit his job to kickstart his new career, followed by his passion. At first, I looked around but couldn't find the car I was dreaming of, so I decided to build it myself. Porsche, as a brand and an organisation, has a lot to live up to this sentence. After working for other manufacturers for several decades, he became one of the most outstanding engineers by creating some of the fastest and most groundbreaking vehicle designs ever produced. Although founding his own car company, Porsche's success led him down a darker path. He became embroiled in military projects for the Nazi regime, ending up in prison and ultimately losing his life. Get ready, because we're about to dive deep on a journey to unveil the true story of Porsche and how overpriced cars have become a symbol of prestige. Here we go. The Porsche company's core idea was to encourage employees to experiment and just do what they thought was best. The Porsche brand's continued success can be attributed to its name. When Porsche vehicles were initially introduced to the market, they were sleek, beautiful and simple machines that performed exactly how consumers wanted them to. It was a combination of innovation and tradition. Porsche has been so successful over the years because they have maintained this image throughout all its new products. It might be intriguing to know how it started, so let's review history. On September 3rd, 1875, Ferdinand Porsche was born in Maffersdorf, the third child in a family of 5. Porsche's father owned a plumbing workshop he ran as a small business. Ferdinand, Anton's son, was expected to take over the family business, but he had other interests. He did electrical experiments at 14. He received minor approval from his father. Instead, he tried to keep his son from being distracted by such nonsense for a long time. Hence, Ferdinand set up a secret workshop in his parents' basement so that he could experiment without interruption. As soon as Ferdinand's father noticed how passionate and obsessed he was about electricity, he enrolled him in the Imperial Technical School of Reichenberg to develop his engineering skills. He quickly picked up the basics, built his own electric generator, and installed electric light bulbs throughout the house just a few months after beginning his studies. Eventually, his father gave in and let him pursue his own path because he could no longer ignore his son's talent. It wasn't known then that this new path would eventually assist Pioneer in creating a brand new automotive industry. Startup mentality since 1931. Every new company faces challenges at the beginning. It's challenging for a founder to create a minimal viable product, or MVP, with limited resources. A startup can only demonstrate its concept's viability and effectiveness with a prototype. This was not only known to Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak when they soldered the first Mac in their garage at 2066 Christ Drive, Los Altos.
We have a chance if we stay focused and choose wisely.
Before they followed this path, Ferdinand Porsche had already done so. In the garage of his villa on Feuerbacher Weg, he quickly installed the mechanical workshop he needed to expand his design office in downtown Stuttgart. By 1935, he had demonstrated the functionality of his 3 Volkswagen prototype vehicles, the essential requirement for receiving order series from the German Association of the Automotive Industry, and continuing the project Volkswagen. Even though they didn't build any cars under the Porsche brand, the company was founded by Ferdinand Porsche in 1931, and initially focused on consulting and developing new vehicles. Volkswagen was tasked by the German government with developing a new car for the people. This led to the arrival of the Volkswagen Beetle. Millions of people around the globe have been enchanted by the Beetle, one of the most successful car designs ever. Due to the Beetle's popularity, many of the components used in the Porsche 64, which was designed in 1939, were taken from the Beetle. By this point, Porsche was highly pleased with themselves and developed a tank prototype they named the Porsche Tiger. The company tried to win the government contract to build all the tanks, but lost to another competing company, Henschel & Sons. Based on their design, they developed the Tiger 1 and Tiger 2 designs for the Elephant tank destroyer. During developing their designs for tank destroyers, Porsche began to show the beginnings of a knack for what they were doing. It's well known that Porsche experienced quite a career during World War II. Near the war's end, Porsche developed 2 prototypes of the Maus Heavy tank. The British took over the Volkswagen factory in 1945 when the war ended. Porsche used the factory to make all its cars. Porsche lost his position as chairman of Volkswagen's board of management. The position was taken over by a British Army major named Ivan Hurst. That worked out well for Ferdinand, since he was arrested for war crimes and spent 20 months in jail, even though he was never tried for them. As his father was in prison, Ferry, his son, decided to make a car of his own since he couldn't find a pre-made car on the market that fit the specs of the car he wanted. So he set out to design and build the car he wanted. He built the initial Porsche 356 models. German auto dealers pre-ordered the car and it went into production. As the first Porsche was built and designed under the small company's name, the 356 is considered the first Porsche to hit the market. It sold 76,000 units. It was in 1950 that Porsche contracted a steel body manufacturer named Reuter Carrosserie. Because they had previously collaborated on the Volkswagen Beetle prototypes, they were confident in Reuter's abilities. As early as 1952, Porsche started building its own assembly plant directly across the street from Reuter's to continue their collaboration. The rest, they say, is history. In 1951, Ferdinand Porsche died. He died on January 30th from stroke complications. Even without Ferdinand at the wheel, the legacy continued. Following the war and the death of the Porsche founder, post-war Germany found it difficult to find parts. For the 356 automobiles to remain in production, parts from the Volkswagen Beetle were needed, including suspension, transmission, internal combustion engine, and engine case. As a result, the 356 remained on the road and ran until it could go through its own series of challenges and evolutions. Over time, Porsche made their own parts and no longer needed Volkswagen parts to make their cars. Despite the 356's new design being based on the Volkswagen Beetle, the same designer was still used. Every design has an air-cooled rear-end configuration, which is very rare among all other car manufacturers, even though the result is a well-balanced and functional vehicle. Porsche's history can only be discussed by mentioning the company's success in motor racing, which dates to 1964. It was the perfect time to develop and launch a new model after the 550 Spider was a racing success and the 356 needed an overhaul and redesign. Thus, the Porsche 911 was born. Another rear-engine air-cooled sports car, the 911 featured a boxer engine with 6 cylinders. Porsche 911 racing cars have become the most well-known racing cars in history. It has made a name for itself both on and off the track and in rally competitions. In fact, the 911 is the foundation of the Porsche brand. Even after several generations and revisions, many other sports cars are still outsold by 911. In 1972, the company began to grow and expand. Soichiro Honda, from Honda, had a policy at the time that prohibited family members from working in the company. Ferry Porsche considered diversifying the company's interests when he heard of that, stating that the company had outgrown its small family operation in the past. Therefore, a new executive board was formed that included non-Porsche family members. However, he allowed family members to serve on the newly formed supervisory board. The family could not manage the company, but they could still vote. Some family members were happy to leave the company's day-to-day management and relax on a beach somewhere with their trust funds. Others wanted to be happier with this decision and left the company to pursue other opportunities. Yet, despite the departure of many family members, this car company's history remains very closely tied to the history of the family. To this day, the family still owns large shares of stock and is involved with the company, and some who left at the time have managed to come back. F.A. Porsche was one of the family members who left. He may have left the company, but that didn't mean he abandoned the Porsche brand. As a result of the brand recognition Porsche had built, he decided to build a company called Porsche Design that designed exclusive luxury articles like furniture, sunglasses and watches, branded with the Porsche name. The other members of the Porsche family who left continued their work elsewhere. Ferdinand Piëch, a grandson of the founder, had been responsible for Porsche's race cars and production cars mechanical development. After leaving, he developed a 5-cylinder inline diesel engine for competitor Mercedes-Benz and ultimately moved to Audi, a Volkswagen subsidiary. After working his way through the company, he became chairman of Volkswagen from 1993 to 2002. He still serves on the Volkswagen AG supervisory board today and owns 12.8% of Porsche's voting shares, only second to his cousin F.A. Porsche, who has 13.6%. The Porsche 911 was introduced in 1989. This was the first Porsche with 4-wheel drive and Porsche Triptonic transmission. Porsche wanted to be the best in the market and actively sought ways to grow, expand and improve. They worked closely with Toyota in 1990 and even drafted a Memorandum of Understanding to benefit from and learn some of Toyota's lean manufacturing methods. Porsche developed hybrid vehicle technology with Toyota in 2004. 2002 was a big year for Porsche. Besides unveiling a new factory in Saxony, the company introduced the Cayenne SUV, a fan favourite ever since and responsible for about half of the company's yearly production. A whopping $440,000 was demanded of the Carrera GT by 2004, and it soon took the title of the most expensive car ever produced and sold by Porsche. As of 2006, the Boxster and then the Cayenne dominated the Porsche sales chart in North America. However, 911 managed to regain the top spot in the region. There has always been a race between Porsche 911 and Cayenne for the bestseller title and selling statistics alternate. But in Germany, the 911 still dominates the market, and others haven't been able to challenge it. When 2011 rolled around, Porsche Cars North America made a bold move and invested $80 to $100 million in a brand new North American headquarters with office buildings and a test track. At Metropolis Atlanta 1 Porsche Drive sits the new headquarters. Since they received about $15 million in economic incentives to relocate from their headquarters in a Sandy Springs suburb of Atlanta to the old Ford plant adjacent to Atlanta's airport site, they were pretty motivated to move to the new mixed-use development site. Porsche has evolved to keep up with the changing times as the nature and market of high-end auto sales have changed. Among these moves is Porsche Passport, which was introduced in Atlanta in October 2017. This subscription-based program allows consumers to access Porsche vehicles without leasing or purchasing them. There are several other car manufacturers that have either implemented similar services or are considering offering subscription-based services. In the past, Porsche and Volkswagen had a very close relationship. In the beginning, Volkswagen produced all Porsche designs before Porsche had its own name, including the first Volkswagen Beetle designed by Ferdinand Porsche. As soon as the scarcity subsided, Porsche began using Volkswagen parts in its vehicles. Many people are unaware that Volkswagen and Porsche collaborated in 1969 to create the VW Porsche 914 and 914-6. In essence, it was the same car, except for the Volkswagen engine in the 914 and the Porsche engine in the 914-6. As a result of further collaborations, the Porsche 912e was only offered in the United States, and the Porsche 924 was known for its Audi components. The Porsche 924 was built at Audi's factory instead of Porsche. However, Porsche appeared to be increasingly dependent on its partner over the years. The Cayenne SUV dominated sales figures, accounting for about a third of the company's sales. It was a great move by Porsche to use the VW SUV chassis by 2005. This literally saved them hundreds of millions of dollars. It wasn't the only vehicle to use a VW chassis. One of their four-door sedans, the Panamera, is just about to be released and will also use a Volkswagen chassis. It was basically a Volkswagen with a Porsche engine installed. Because of all this, Porsche paid $4.2 billion in 2005 to acquire 20% of Volkswagen. Porsche was concerned the partner they had grown to rely on would be snapped up by another car company during an era when automobile mergers and acquisitions were rampant. In their claim, they did not intend to control Volkswagen, but instead were trying to protect themselves against a hostile takeover by another company. To the average investor trying to understand the move, Volkswagen had been struggling. and the move made no sense. Porsche expanded its holdings in Volkswagen to 29.9% by the end of 2006, despite the confusion it caused. By 2007, they had reached 31%, and by 2008, they had reached 50%. They believed Volkswagen to be a cheap company with great potential. 74.1% of Volkswagen shares were acquired by Porsche in October 2008, shocking the world. In the United States, such a move would have been illegal, so it was lucky that it all took place in Germany. Due to the financial meltdown, Porsche had billions of dollars in loans due in 2009, but no bank would touch them, so Volkswagen stepped in and let Porsche borrow $1 billion to pay them off. In retrospect, it was a perfect setup for what followed. Overnight, Porsche went from acquiring a significant stake in Volkswagen to needing Volkswagen's help. That's ironic. Volkswagen AG and Porsche SE merged their car manufacturing operations in 2009. They were already doing so much together and had been doing so for decades. In 2011, they merged to form an integrated automotive group. Porsche SE management took Porsche AG management positions so that Volkswagen AG management could maintain control. In exchange, Volkswagen AG was to own 51.75% of Porsche SE, and Porsche AG would be acquired by Volkswagen AG as part of the deal. Despite sounding confusing, it all worked out in the end. It took just a few years for the group to control everything from Volkswagen Financial Services, Skoda, Seat, Volkswagen, MAN, VW commercial vehicles, Audi, Lamborghini, Bugatti, Porsche AG, Ducati, Bentley, and Scania by 2015. It's safe to say they're doing quite well for themselves, regardless of how you cut it. As of right now, Porsche is producing Panameras, Macans, 911s, Boxsters, Cayennes, and Caymans. To make their vehicles, they have turned over production to a 100% subsidiary of Volkswagen AG called Dr. Ing HCF Porsche AG. Porsche won't be going anywhere anytime soon. One of the world's biggest single car companies, they hold the world record for most profits per unit sold. May 11, 2018 marked the 1 millionth 911 built by Porsche. As part of the celebration, Porsche constructed an Italian green Carrera S that is being toured worldwide before becoming a permanent part of the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart. According to the people, Porsche makes vehicles that are loved by them. In addition to being solid, reliable, sexy, sleek and fast, they're also stylish. This car is built on quality and history, and is genuinely for the true car enthusiast. In terms of technology and performance, they are still at the forefront. They offer supercars like the 918 Spider, and more sophisticated and practical SUVs like the Cayenne that are not only functional and practical, but also luxurious and sporty at the same time. There has been no end of titles and trophies for Porsche throughout its long and illustrious racing career. No doubt they know what they're doing when building great vehicles. This concludes our discussion of today's topic. We hope you enjoyed this video, since Porsche has always been one of our favourite sports brands. If you had to choose one, which sports car would you choose? What is your favourite iconic Porsche sports car? We would love to hear your thoughts on the brand, so let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. The Incredibler will be back soon, so please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. Cheers!